We're about 150 miles off the east coast. We're standing on the flight deck of the carrier Gilbert Islands. This is part of what is called a hunter-killer group. We're looking for a submarine. The group is made up of this aircraft carrier, 14 aircraft, 4 helicopters, and a screen of 5 destroyers.
This is the destroyer USS Owen. The Owen is the flagship of a contingent of 5 destroyers operating in this hunter-killer group off the Atlantic coast. For this operation, her code name is Firefly.
The code word for the carrier is Dragon. We'll now go over, just to our right a bit here, and consult an expert on this hunter-killer group, Commodore Fitzhugh-Lee. Commodore, where would you be likely to get your first information regarding the presence of a submarine in this area?
Mr. Merrill, I usually hang out in that greenhouse up there, and the word would come to me up there.
And from what source, generally?
Well, any number of sources. So we might get a sighting from a ship at sea, or from intelligence sources not known to us, or we would get the dope from some shore base or from one of our planes on patrol.
And then what is your first action after you receive that signal, sir?
Well, we're sort of like a football team. We have a lot of prearranged signals, and based on the situation that existed at the time, I would call one of the signals.
Well, now, with all this electronic gear you have, what is the basic difficulty in detecting a submarine? That's a simple question, isn't it?
No, that's a very tough question. The basic difficulty is that the submarine has a lot of advantages. Physics gets us. There are certain laws of physics that make it very difficult for us to solve the problem. In the first place, we have a lot of devices for listening underwater.
Yes.
And detecting underwater. We have others, such as radar, radio, and other electronic devices for detecting in the atmosphere. But there is a plane that separates the two, and joining the intelligence that you get from both of them together and finding the solution of the problem is really a difficult one, as you will see on this ship. It's a very complex place, full of an awful lot of very complicated machinery, which I can't understand.
Well, I certainly can.
We operate to try to search out, detect, and finally kill any submarine that is threatening our control of the sea.
Somewhere between the southern point of Greenland and the east coast of the United States is a U.S. Navy submarine, simulating an enemy craft carrying a guided missile with an atomic warhead. Reporter Bill Downs is aboard.
8 hours always seem to come at the most miserable part of a day, at dawn. This is the U.S. Navy submarine Becuna. We are now located some 400 miles east of Boston. It's straight ahead at a spot called latitude 4230 north, 6230 west. In 32 hours from now, we will be within guided missile range or torpedo range or rocket range of Cape Cod, the Boston Harbor, Charleston Navy Yard, Harvard University, the Common, Old North Church, Beacon Hill, and Bunker Hill. It's possible for such a submarine to make this journey, be it friendly or enemy. We are going to try. Captain, you know more about this operation than I do. Would you tell us about it?
Our mission is to make an undetected approach on the port of Boston. In just 5 minutes, we are going to dive and continue on snorkel. We will run on snorkel as long as possible, that is, until air or surface activity becomes so intense that we are forced to completely submerge and run on battery power.
Captain Shear had planned to submerge just after dawn. But before he could, an unidentified Liberty ship crossed the horizon. They could not see us in this light, much less bother to report us. But the captain took no chances and ordered, dive. The engine room shuts down the diesel engines. In the maneuver room here, the batteries take over from the diesels. The control room.
Green board, sir. 5 feet, aye, sir. 6 degrees down angle, 5 feet. All ahead, 2/3. 3 degrees down, Bubba. 3 down.
Is that all vents?
There are vents.
All ahead, 2/3.
All vent shut.
Five feet, sir.
Very well. That negative.
At 55 feet, the submarine levels off. That bubble is like a carpenter's level. The captain's eye now is a periscope. It's an excellent radar target. He makes his sweep in a matter of seconds.
Now scope.
Back on the carrier, there is an incoming message. The Liberty ship, through the eastern sea frontier, has notified us there is an unidentified submarine 400 miles away.
Flag plot for main comm.
Flag.
The message goes to Flag Plot and Commodore Lee.
2, Hunter Killer Group Wait. Break. SS Liberty reports sighting submarine. Latitude 4230 north, longitude 6230 west. On westerly heading. X-ray. Submerged after being sighted. X-ray.
No friendly submarines this area. X-ray. Locate and destroy.
Break.
Strike plot, aye.
Well, alert the force. We'll take a course to the east, about 066.
Yes, sir. That's good course.
Speed 18. Tell the ship to launch searches right away.
Aye, sir.
Get the ship first.
Aft bridge.
Flag plot.
Although the Commodore commands the task force, the carrier has its own commander. That's Captain Joe Ruddy.
To 18 knots. Put planes in condition 1. Over.
This is the bridge. Wilco. Bosun mate. Down flight quarters.
Right on.
Mr. Bridges. Warn the engineers we're coming up to 18 knots. Prepare for a course change.
On the Gilbert Islands, as on Old Ironsides, the bosun's pipe sounds action station.
Flight quarters. Flight quarters. All hands, man your flight
The
quarters.
CIC room, the nerve center, which collects, evaluates, and plots all combat information.
Search plans with axis 060 for a distance of 360 miles to search for a reported submarine. Prepare to brief pilot.
Combat aye.
Submarine has been reported at 4230 north, 6230 west, proceeding in a westerly direction. Our present position is 4030 north, 70 degrees west. Our course is 060, speed 18. Are there any questions before the briefing on the search plan?
The plan for the first launch will be 10 Queen. Team number 1, 20 miles to the north of our intended course. Team number 2, 20 miles to the south. Plan axis is 060. Track spacing, 20 miles. Length of the legs, 150 miles ahead of the task group. Are there any questions? No questions? Pilots and crew stand by to man your planes.
Pilots and crews, man your planes. Check all loose gear about the deck. Stand clear for colors. Start engine. Start engine.
Pilots and crew, stand by. This will be a catapult shot. Wings are locked. Harness set. Prepare for catapult shot.
This is the catapult room. A hydraulic piston shoots the planes into the air. The first search flight is made up of two teams of Grumman Guardians. The planes spread out in pairs in a preconceived search plan.
This is the submarine Becuna again. We don't know whether the Liberty ship reported us or not, but we are running on snorkel.
Captain, we've been submerged now, running on snorkel for about an hour, and that's about an hour out of 4230 north and 6230 west. Now, where would that put us right now at this moment?
Right now, that puts us about 150 miles southeast of Halifax and about 400 miles due east of Boston.
Well, this would be on the Great Circle route from the Arctic. Say, if any submarine was coming from, say, Murmansk, why, this would be a logical course to follow.
That is correct.
3 hours out from the carrier, one of the teams picked up a radar signal. Radar is carried in that belly under the fuselage. In this case, the radar operator thought he had picked up a signal from the sub's periscope.
Hello, Dragon, this is April. Contact 045, 30 miles, and proceed to investigate, over.
Flight from Combat Aircraft, Search Team 1 reports periscope bearing 045, 30 miles.
Hey, well, this is Dragon. Roger, keep me informed.
Radar has picked up a plane overhead and has ordered a deep dive.
100 feet. Left full rudder.
Left full rudder, aye.
All ahead standard.
All ahead standard, aye. That's all ahead standards.
Very well.
Whatever the plane's radar had picked up, he lost it.
Hello, Dragon, this is Able. Request permission to return to base. Estimate fuel supply at 40 minutes. Over. Able, this is Dragon. Return immediately to base. Out.
The next morning, all flight operations were canceled because of rough seas from Halifax to Cape Hatteras. On the afternoon of the second day, the weather cleared, and the Commodore was able to get his planes into the air and resume the search. The first flight out reported a radar contact 30 miles to the northeast. In this case, the Commodore ordered the planes to return and the helicopters and the destroyers out for the kill.
Yes, sir. Tell combat to get the anti-submarine helicopters going.
Launch helicopters, launch helicopters. We're talking to you now from one of the Dragon's choppers. The helicopter's job is to go out ahead of the destroyers and lead them to the submarine, if we can find it.
This is the bridge of the destroyer Owen, the leader of the group.
Porcupine, Striker, this is Firefly. ASW helicopters will join us on station. This will be a hunt to kill.
The helicopter team is made up of 2 choppers, each with sonar detection gear, almost like deep-sea fishing. The chopper drops a line with a big ball crammed with sound equipment.
Ball's in the water.
What that ball in the water hears is registered on this scope and in the earphone.
Down here in the sub, we've picked up a ping. It could be a helicopter. General quarters.
Sonar contact bearing 128, range 1600.
Dragon, this is 36 Dragon. Have sonar contact.
Dragon hears the message, but the destroyers hear it simultaneously and maneuver for the kill.
This is the sonar room of the destroyer. The more incessant those audio pings get, the closer we are to the submarine.
Now we hear not only the ping, but the freight train sound of the destroyer's screws. Evasive action is ordered.
Strong forward slowly, closing rapidly.
Destroyer directly overhead right now.
Bearing is 143.
Range 1400.
Out on the deck, the ordnance men load the hedgehogs. But no hedgehogs until the sonar contact so directs.
Steady, 060.
Steady 060. Our rudder is left full.
The signal to fire comes from the destroyer's sonar room.
Fire hedgehog.
Incidentally, those hedgehog loads have plaster heads instead of the usual high explosive. But if they're on target, they'll hear them down in the submarine.
Target is drifting rapidly to our port, bearing 355.
Stand by to fire hedgehogs, range 300.
Fire hedgehog.
At this stage in the sub, you hope.
It was a good attack. He really had us then. I'll fire a smoke float. Let him know exactly where we are. After him, load and fire one black smoke.
In this maneuver, the captain considers the hit to be lethal. He orders a black smoke float.
The submarine captain is both enemy and umpire, and a smoke float means a direct hit. Back on the carrier, we had asked the Commodore the big question. In case of war with the Soviet Union, how do you think we would do against their submarines?
Frankly, Mr. Murrow, I don't know. But we would do our best. And I hope that our best would be good enough. I think it would be. But we have to remember that America's control of the seas is one of the most important facets of her security. Kaiser Bill almost won World War I with his U-boats. And the Battle of the Atlantic raged for months before we knew who was going to be the victor, us or Hitler. Our own submarine campaign against Japan almost was a major factor in the downfall of Japan. This hunter-killer group is one of the tools which will be needed to control the sea. There are many other tools that will be needed too. The job will be long and tough and expensive. In the first months of war, it would be bad for us because the enemy's U-boats would be disposed at sea already. But I think if we have the tools to do the job, we will do it well, and it will be important for America that we recognize the magnitude of the task.